Are you ready? We're excited to have the PetSmart show us how they've optimized replenishment processes with fast results on one unified solution. So please welcome Kyle Swisher, Senior Manager of Merch, Financial, and Space Planning Specialty.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the introduction. Very excited to be here today on behalf of PetSmart. Got our agenda up here, so we're going to walk everyone through our journey with Relex over the past several years, give a bit of a background of our selection process, walk through our goals for our system implementation, why we selected Relex ultimately, and then kind of walk through our rollout change management approach. Specifically going through a COVID year, we had to pivot a lot, but I think our change management approach helped us be very successful despite the change in work environment. And then finally, I'm going to lead it off with business rules engine and what's next for PetSmart in terms of continuing to innovate with Relex. So I'll start here, just a brief overview of the pet industry. So if you think about how much money is spent on pets just in the United States, it's just over $103 billion in the year 2020. And then looking at households, you have almost 85 million households that own pets. So it's a really big market, and we've seen a lot of growth over the last year in terms of pet ownership, which has in turn led to great performance for PetSmart as a whole. Walking into PetSmart overview, so just some quick stats here. Outside of the storefront, we are very big in adoptions. We've adopted out more than 9.7 million pets through our PetSmart Charities program, where all of our stores work together with either within the store or with local adoption centers to find forever homes for pets and their pet parents. Currently, we have over 1,650 stores. Moving into services business, we have 4.7 million services customers, and that's across a variety of services that we offer in our stores. So grooming, dog training, doggy day camp, as well as our Pets Hotel program, where dogs and cats can spend time at our Pets Hotel while you're on vacation. We have over or nearly 50,000 associates across the country in our stores and our home offices. Over 60 or 36,000 unique products available either in store and online. And then we also offer expert veterinarian care through Banfield at more than 800 locations across the United States. So jumping into the project overall, I'll start with our whole process for selecting a system. So previously we were on a legacy replenishment system, didn't really talk to our other systems internally. We had three main goals for implementing a new system. We obviously wanted to reduce manual processes and convert to more automated exception-based processes over time. We wanted to improve performance, so that includes anticipating future demand, improving inventory productivity, and enabling our store associates to successfully deliver what our customers need on a daily basis. This includes just overall system performance, so reliability, processing time, and the ability to act quickly to market changes. And then finally, we wanted to strengthen partnerships across the business. So providing not only our home office, but our DCs, stores, and vendors better visibility into relevant data. So working together throughout the supply chain to deliver goods from manufacturing all the way to that pet parent at our stores. And we wanted to do this by keeping everyone informed through frequent and transparent communication, while also providing the opportunity to ask questions and provide feedback. So one of the biggest pieces was not working in a silo and trying to work cross-functionally with the teams that would be impacted. Most notably our associates that would be working within the system. We wanted to make sure we had them properly up to speed to perform in the system and get the results that we wanted while still supporting sales in store. So kind of backing up to our selection process, we started this almost 4 years ago. We reached out to, at the initial, about 24 different vendors to get an RFP and information around their systems. Ultimately ended up whittling that down to about 6 customers that we had either on site or conference calls with to talk through system features and start rolling out additional companies based on our needs and their capabilities. And then finally, when we had on-site visits, we ended up selecting Relex as our system to achieve these needs for our system. And that process we started that in 2018, ultimately selected Relex in 2019, in the summer of 2019. So moving forward into some of the reasons why we selected Relex, ultimately, we had a lot of choices out there, but determining the right fit for PetSmart was important, not only in the short term, but for long-term development and success of our supply chain. So one, the integrated platform. So not thinking just about one system, but how can we integrate replenishment, promotional planning, and our supply chain together on one platform, and in the future have the ability to potentially expand to other systems, such as space planning. Configurability was a huge selling point for us. If you look at a lot of different software providers, they're what I would call black box. They're not willing to share the background in the system and how things are processed and selected. Relex is pretty much the opposite of that. They allow you to see the nightly configurations and the setup in the system, and they teach your super users that configuration so that they can self-service within the system. This allows us to pivot quickly when we need to adjust inventory or we need to adjust nightly processing times. It also allows us to unlock future capabilities or processes that come up through continuous development with our teams. So we have an incredible IT partnership here at PetSmart. A team consistently delivers us, new solutions. We're able to work with them to get data we need to into the system. And then our super users can set up the nightly runs and configurations to deliver the results that we're trying to achieve. System performance, as I mentioned before, the processing power within Relex is pretty incredible. Josh talked about it before, but continuing to drive forward with more and more data and still being able to process through that in the time constraints that we have in our business. We've been very successful in having a reliable system throughout our entire rollout. That includes testing, initial pilot, and then full rollout. We have had no system downtime in terms of the environment, and we've been able to successfully deliver on that with partnership with Relex, which moves nicely into the overall partnership. We started our workshops with Relex in the fall of 2019. I believe it was September. And from there forward, it was a very consistent partnership back and forth, right? So it wasn't, hey, PetSmart, we need you to do all these things on your own and deliver them to us. We had this consistent back and forth to help deliver solutions and hit our timelines as needed. If anything, Relex was waiting on us to send them data at times when we were trying to move through the implementation. But I've really appreciated the partnership, not only during the implementation, but post-implementation. So I think one of the biggest call outs we had from other customers or others in the industry when selecting a system is making sure that you have that continuous delivery opportunity after the system's actually implemented. And we've had a great team on the continuous delivery team from Relex, walking through anything that we needed to adjust, especially going through COVID. We had to get very creative with solutions on our end. And in terms of unlocking additional capabilities that we didn't think we needed at first, they've been a great partner there with minor developments along the way. And then finally, being an exception-based system, this is eventually where we want to move to, right? Relex is all about enabling the end users to focus in on what's truly important and provide their expertise in the areas that are difficult for a system to predict and manage. So if you think about your normal categories that are very, steady demand, consumables categories, and areas where they have consistent weekly sales, a lot of those categories are all about vendor management outside of the system to deliver results, right? So we set up our system, we continue to evaluate what our strategies for inventory in store are, and they kind of go forward from there, right? And you manage on the supply chain side. I'm sure that all those on the call are aware that there have been significant supply chain challenges across every industry in the last 18 months. So giving the teams the ability to focus on that versus spending a lot of time manually adjusting the system is something we continue to strive to move toward in a more impactful way. And ultimately, we want our users sharing their expertise on those areas that do require more attention to detail. And if you think specifically about the area that I manage in financial and space planning specialty, and with my allocation partner here with live pets and that supply chain, those are definitely some very unique challenges for us. And we want to give the associates the right amount of time to focus on that while letting the system optimize other areas where we have the data to do so. Okay, so just a little bit about our system rollout timeline. So overall, we tried to lead through a day in the life training, a waved approach leading up to and throughout the rollout. So starting with configuration and testing, this was at the beginning of 2020. We went with kind of a conference room pilot. This was initially intended to be in person, but March, everyone started working from home at our organization. So we kind of did this virtually. And I feel like we were very successful in adopting Microsoft Teams at our office and facilitating those meetings in that way. So we went through iterative testing as functionality came on, as we started implementing each interface that Relex needs from a data perspective, rigorously testing those with our team, not only IT, but our super users on the business side. And then also bringing in our Wave 1 pilot user group, right? So asking them to help with UAT and starting to train them to get them onboarded. And then finally, we leveraged the Relex Skills Academy. So that was an incredible resource for us. I know our Canadian team heavily used that Skills Academy and helped build out their own training based on that material. So that was an invaluable resource for us. So I'm excited to continue to see that get updated as we move forward with new features on future versions of Relex. So moving forward, our first wave, our pilot, was in July of last year. So we've actually just anniversaried our 1 year live in Relex on July 20th of last month. So at that point, we introduced about 10% of our retail volume. We had 16 users live in the system, and we continued to train our pilot users throughout that period. And we kind of managed that by having a live chat in Teams throughout the entire pilot period, right? So if there were common themes or questions, everyone was involved on the chat. Our super user team and IT was on standby to provide solutions or answers to what the users needed to make sure we were successful. We monitored inventory levels and made sure that all of our orders were reaching vendors as intended. And overall, we're very successful in that implementation. Moving forward, we moved into wave 2, where we had about 23% of our retail volume, but we didn't bring any additional users live in this time period. So the intent here was to expand the scope within our rollout, but keep the user group the same so they can continue to gain the skills necessary to be successful in the system. And then wave 3 and 4, so wave 3 came in September. This is when we added more users, and we actually brought Canada live at the same time. So 72% of our retail volume, we did US and Canada training at that time. And then finally, wave 4 was beginning of October, where we put all of our volume into the system. That was all users, vendors, products were live within Relex. So total implementation time from initial workshops. So I mentioned the RFP process, which has taken about 3.5, 4 years from start to implementation, but our actual implementation period was just over 12 months from start of the workshops in September of 19 through the final rollout in October of 20. And this was just a combination of teams working incredibly hard through a very different time for us working from home and having to flex. And hats off to all of our associates and the teams that I worked with here at PetSmart. You guys did an incredible job managing through a ton of change management at that time and helping us deliver an incredible holiday season for PetSmart in total. Again, our big focus here on communication and engagement activities. So I just wanted to highlight some of the specific things we did to be successful here, because I think it's critical to any large implementation at any company, regardless of the speed that you move at. We published e-newsletters to our internal partners across merchandise planning allocation, our merchant partners on the buying side, and supply chain teams. So we try to keep all those teams informed of, hey, here's what's going on with the Relex implementation. Here's what's relevant to you. Here's what to expect upcoming. And we publish those every month throughout the whole implementation. So I think we ended up producing about 13 of those in total. And the feedback was great in terms of keeping people informed of a project at the right level. And then in addition to that, we shared instructional videos on basic navigation and new processes in the system. So we partnered with some external consultants to help us build some of those materials. Very great recorded videos to walk people through, different views and what they were used for, as well as help build out that day in the life training. We engaged with our associates for multiple lunch and learn sessions. One specifically was around terminology between Relex and our legacy replenishment system. So moving from one system to another, there's a lot of internal terminology that doesn't cross between the two. So we wanted to make a point to try to bridge that gap as much as possible, knowing that there would obviously be future opportunities to improve upon that, engage everyone's understanding. But we had that initial pass at, hey, this is called X in our old system. This is what Relex refers to it as, right? So people could bridge the gap between those two different things. And ultimately, we ended up holding multiple sessions of those where we'd have a topic and then we'd open it up to questions. And I think that really kept the team engaged and let them know that we are available from a systems implementation team and business systems team. Multiple Q&A sessions as well, just about project and new system capabilities. So we held sessions in town halls, as well as those lunch and learns where we had just straight Q&A sessions where we didn't have a topic, but we wanted to let the team come forward with their questions as they had started to use the system, which I think were all incredibly helpful to let the team have that voice, as well as pull us all together as a team in a virtual environment. Some additional key activities. So we did change assessment survey. We did multiple of those to kind of gauge everyone's understanding of the system, how they're feeling about the implementation. And we've tried to take that feedback and continue to improve as we move along in our journey with Relex. And then, like I said, the system rollout communication. So as part of those e-newsletters, we included the rollout plan within those so that all teams can understand, hey, here's when I can expect the system to start moving forward. Even if I'm not directly impacted in my daily work, I understand that other associates are, and they're going to be learning a new system at that time. And then all of these, I think, gave us this 360 view, as you can see on the right here, of awareness, impacts, culture, and support. That's kind of what we were trying to achieve overall with this approach to change management. Okay, so moving into the business rules engine, I think for myself and the team, this is one of the single most important things about Relex, and that you have control of your system and what it's doing in the evening, nightly, and weekly runs. We've used this to optimize several different processes and actually pivot over time or what makes sense for our business. And those can both be delivered with flexibility and speed. So if I think about inventory optimization, you have the ability to get very surgical about your days supply strategies or what you want your minimum presentation to be in store for specific categories. And it's as easy as a super user updating those settings and going through and accepting those, and you can implement those within the next day, which I think is an incredibly powerful tool within the system, as you can also notate it in the system. You have it all in one place where you have one source of the truth in terms of what you're trying to do with your inventory. Campaign replenishment. So this is something we're just scratching the surface on, but we're able to utilize a lot of the campaign replenishment features in terms of sending inventory early to stores to prep for a campaign, boosting inventory levels to support secondary locations, and continuing to understand, like, when do we need product in stores to support promos? Does it need to be 5 days early, 7 days early? Can it be just in time? And these are all things we continue to work through, but we have the capability within Relex to achieve them with the base functionality. Order block management. So if you think about introducing new items or getting out of old items. So let's take the case of maybe I'm reducing a certain item out of a certain subset of stores, but I'm going to keep it in 1,200 stores. So let's say I'm getting rid of it in 300 stores. We're able to alert the system of that and kind of automate that process for just continuing the ordering of that store. Where in the past, a user would have to pull a report and actually manually load those dates in. And then, oh, by the way, if that changed, they would have to go back in and remove those dates. So there was a lot of auditing back and forth and pulling data in and out of the system that we're able to optimize by using data from our other partners across the business to inform the system of those changes. Product replacements. So specifically when I change packaging on an item, we were able to build a simpler process in our ERP system, which then fed to Relex, and we were able to build some rules around DC and store replenishment to enable that more easily for users than we had in our previous legacy system. And then the final two here, I mentioned before, nightly run processing. So just the speed at which we can process the nightly runs from the time that we send all of our master data over every night to the completion. We are able to work specifically with Relex on adjusting some of our order proposal business rules and speed up that optimization speed that up significantly from what it was before. And that was just through partnership on our minor development calls. So that was a huge win for the team in terms of delivering orders to our distribution centers every morning. And then finally, what if scenarios. So within Relex, you can run scenarios and say, hey, what's my current parameter and what's the new one? I want to see what happens when I change my safety stock from 7 days to 21 days or to 14 days, or I want to change my minimum presentation strategy. What is that going to yield in units overall? So you're able to run those things without actually implementing them in the system. And that gives us a lot of visibility into, hey, if I did this option, I'm going to get this result. I do this one, I'm going to get a different one. And that's something we had to do outside of our previous system. So that's been a big win for us. And we can continue to unlock additional features there. We're just scratching the surface. So that leads me to what's next. You know, we've delivered a lot in the last 18 months. We could deliver much more to the business, specifically, you know, refining views and dashboards. So we went in, we learned as much as possible about Relex before you go live, but you really learn once you're live in the system. And we can continue to refine views and adjust dashboards for what makes sense for users and what they're looking at on a daily basis and make their work even more concise over time. Unused capabilities. So like I mentioned before, there's opportunities within the system where we're not using some of the capabilities because we didn't have that we didn't realize, oh yeah, that we could use that to become more optimized. So that's one of the great things about Relex and our ability. We could implement a lot of the features without having to go and develop anything with Relex. Our super users have that power to work with the business and implement those changes. I mentioned before Relex platforms. So the ability to have everything on the same platform and the same database is a potential for us in the future if we do decide to bring on other Relex products. Inventory strategies, again, mentioned that. We can continue to utilize that at even more granular level. Seasonal product management, so specifically our one-time buy programs for Halloween and holiday, continuing to improve there. I think that's one of our biggest areas that we could enable users to have more automated use of the system, and we're continuing to work through that by configuring the system to work for us. And then continuous training and development. So I think this one's incredibly important because often businesses go in and implement a system and then move on to the next thing. But for our users, it's incredibly important to have that continuous training and development. And we want to be committed to giving them that over time and not just giving them a shot in the arm at the beginning and then saying, here you go, here's this system. We want to continue to support them and keep driving forward innovation on how we manage our business. Okay.
Thank you, Kyle, and congratulations to you, the team, and PetSmart, because it just sounds like those results and the journey has been really phenomenal for you. And you talked about the terminology sessions, and I think that that's absolutely huge because you've got to be on the same page in implementation. And so kudos to you for that as well. So we've got a couple of really interesting questions. The first one that I have for you is, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for PetSmart within the Relex platform?
I think this goes back to refining the daily work. So when I mentioned views and dashboards just earlier, we set up the system for what we thought we would use. And then we have that flexibility to have a lot of views to use. But over time, people have told us, hey, these are the things that are most important to me. Can we structure it this way? Right. So I think it's continuing to take that feedback from the team. They are the experts in their categories, right? And I think we would be doing them a disservice to say, no, this is how we set it up. And that's how we want you to use it. We're trying to solicit that feedback and say, all right, yeah, we can refine how we order or how we review forecasts and work through that. And oh, by the way, we have the ability to do that on the views, and then dashboards, we can work with Relex over time to refine those. I think that's probably the single biggest in terms of working in the environment opportunity. And then as well as, like I said, unlocking those other things that we aren't using. There's so many different features that you have to just spend time running the business to understand how they could benefit us.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things that I hear in an implementation is to make sure that you're using all of the features. So we've got a question come in from Corbin. Have you seen fill rate increases to stores since implementation of Relex? If so, can you provide a percentage increase in fill rate to your stores?
So I'll start with when COVID hit in terms of just total retail environment, the supply chain has been incredibly challenging in terms of availability. So in terms of how Relex is allocating out to stores, we are using the scarcity function to allocate when we don't have enough to meet demand. I will say, just because of the supply chain constraints, in terms of results, I don't think that's fair to share in terms of like Relex's ability to deliver results. It's more on our, continual journey to work with vendors to secure product. But in a lot of cases, they are struggling with the raw material piece. So I would say overall, like in terms of scarcity allocation and pushing product to the top stores and the ones that need it the most, I believe the system's done that well. There's just some unique challenges in terms of like, if the vendor doesn't have the product, Relex can only fill at a certain rate, right? So I think all retailers are feeling that. And even when you're shopping in stores, even to this day, like you can tell there's a difference than when we were 2 to 3 years ago.
Absolutely. So we've got one more question from Cassandra. How has your experience been since going live and in continuous service?
I think it's been great from a partnership. We've had weekly meetings with Cassandra, our service manager, and the team. I've been very happy with how we've logged those things. We've had opportunities where we needed something quicker, and we worked through that and delivered that to the team. I think that weekly meeting and the team having the willingness to meet with us so we have that open communication back and forth has been critical. Because as I mentioned before, too often it's like, cut the cord. All right, if you want more help, we're going to charge you more development hours. And that hasn't been the case with Relex in terms of those meetings and talking through those opportunities. So I've been happy with it, and I know our super user team has continued that relationship as well.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, Kyle. It's meaningful to see how optimization impacted the organization down to a customer level. So I appreciate you for sharing all of that with us today.